Welcome to Movies Rundown. Today, we're going to explore a thrilling action movie from 2021 called Nobody. The story revolves around Hutch, an apparently ordinary man. He leads a monotonous life, with 2 kids from his successful wife, Becca, and an unremarkable job as an office worker at his father-in-law Eddie's metal fabrication company. Hutch's daily routine slowly wears him down, and at the end of another mind-numbing day, he crawls into bed, finding a pillow placed between him and his wife. The sound of a barking neighborhood dog awakens Hutch, prompting him to investigate. As he descends the stairs, he hears the sound of intruders breaking into the house. Alert and fearing for his safety, Hutch grabs a golf club. While attempting to make a phone call, he is confronted by a female intruder who holds him at gunpoint and demands money. Hutch notices a tattoo on her wrist. The intruders also demand his wedding ring. Just as Hutch is about to attack the male intruder with the golf club, his son Blake rushes downstairs and tackles the man. Hutch, restraining himself, commands Blake to release the intruder. He becomes enraged at his own father for allowing the burglars to escape. Shortly after, the police arrive to investigate. Hutch regrets his decision not to stop the intruders and feels the disappointment from his family. They return to bed, while Hutch goes downstairs to sleep on the couch. His young daughter Sammy joins him, displaying the only affection he receives. Sammy suggests that they get a cat. The following day, Blake asks Hutch for an interview about veterans for a project. Hutch replies that he was just an auditor, and Becca suggests Blake should ask his grandfather instead. The family leaves the house to begin their day, and a neighbor taunts Hutch for letting the intruders go while bragging about his new car. The tedium of Hutch's week starts all over again. Upon reaching the factory, Hutch's brother-in-law Charlie questions him about why he didn't confront the intruders. Charlie even offers Hutch a gun to keep his family safe. Hutch retrieves the gun and places it inside an empty cardboard box located at the back of the refrigerator. Eddie then approaches Hutch to discuss his offer to buy the business from him, expressing his desire for a better deal after a lifetime of hard work. After considering the request, Hutch locks his office door and contacts his supposedly deceased brother Harry using a hidden radio in his office. Hutch explains that he refrained from attacking the intruders because they were young, scared, and desperate, and their gun was unloaded. Harry agrees with Hutch's response and warns him against doing anything foolish. Hutch leaves his workplace and visits his elderly father, David, who questions whether Hutch remembers who he used to be. With a sigh, Hutch watches his family gather around the dinner table. Sammy enters, expressing her inability to find her kitty cat bracelet, which was in the bowl with the stolen money. Hutch has it and leaves, returning to his father to borrow his FBI badge and gun. He then visits several tattoo parlors, displaying the expired FBI badge to the customers. One of the customers laughs, informing Hutch that the badge expired 2 decades ago. They inquire about his true identity. Hutch reveals that he is just a man searching for someone and reveals his wallet, challenging them to take the cash from him. Upon seeing the tattoo on his wrist, the customers' attitudes change, expressing gratitude for his service. When asked how they can assist him, Hutch points to a picture of a tattoo on the counter, and they provide him with the address of the person associated with it. Hutch proceeds toward the apartment. Inside, a young woman boils a kettle and calls her boyfriend, who enters the room with Hutch following closely behind. Hutch threatens them at gunpoint, demanding the return of his watch and the kitty cat bracelet. The commotion wakes their sick baby, and Hutch realizes that they are desperate individuals struggling to make ends meet. Filled with sadness and rage, Hutch walks out into the rain and repeatedly punches the wall in the alley. He boards a bus and takes a seat at the back. Suddenly, 5 drunken Russian thugs enter the bus, causing the female bus driver to appear fearful as she opens the door. The thugs intimidate the passengers surrounding a young girl. Hutch stands up and calmly walks through them, convincing the driver to let everyone off the bus. After closing the door, Hutch confronts the thugs, removing all the bullets from his gun. Hutch intimidates them, but they find it amusing. He then releases his pent-up frustration and anger, violently assaulting. He instructs the young woman to run away while the brutal fight carries on. Spotting one of the men loading bullets into his gun, Hutch strikes him with a steel pipe, causing severe damage to his windpipe. Upon exiting the bus, Hutch apologizes to the shocked driver for the mess he caused and walks away. Returning home, he finds his wife sitting in the dark. She asks where he had been, and he replies that it felt reminiscent of the past and expresses his longing for her. As she tenderly tends to his wounds, he mentions feeling disconnected from her and lacking intimacy in their marriage. He asks if she remembers who they used to be. Later that night, Becca removes the pillow that separates them and gently touches him. In the next scene, Yulian, a Russian mob enforcer, crosses the street to Club Molina. He takes the stage, singing and dancing, and then approaches a group of men in the crowd. Yulian inquires if they are satisfied with his security services for ABSAC. The group spokesperson informs Julian that his singing and dancing fail to inspire confidence in them regarding his role as the custodian of their money. In response, Julian brutally kills one of their stakeholders and asks if their confidence has been restored. He then answers his phone and learns about his brother's attack. Julian stands at his brother's bedside witnessing the severe brain damage he has sustained. One of the severely injured men in the ward shows Julian a Metro card he found during the bus fight. Meanwhile, Hutch appears content and self-assured as he prepares for his day. He commends his son, Clark, for confronting the intruders and receives a call from Harry, who advises him to meet a man known as the Barber. The Barber warns Hutch that one of the thugs is the younger brother of Julian, a wealthy and dangerous sociopath. The Barber provides Hutch with the necessary information and mentions that Julian is unaware of Hutch's identity. He states that Julian will feel compelled to seek revenge for his younger brother. ABSAC is an operation involving the movement of hundreds of millions of dollars, currently overseen by Ilian. Hutch is informed that his father resides in a nursing home downtown. The pursuit to locate his father's whereabouts and gather information about Hutch continues, with the realization that he is simply labeled as nobody in the archives. Meanwhile, Hutch joyfully prepares a delightful meal for his family and suggests they take a trip to Italy. Suddenly, he notices a car approaching and urgently instructs his family to seek refuge in the basement. Julian has dispatched a crew led by his trusted associate Pavel to attack Hutch at his residence. Standing in the darkness, Hutch launches a retaliatory assault, eliminating the majority of the assailants. However, Pavel eventually subdues him using a taser. They forcefully throw Hutch into the car trunk, where he dislocates his wrist to free himself from the handcuffs. Spotting a fire extinguisher, Hutch seizes the opportunity to blind his captors and crashes the car into a traffic light. Hutch rushes home to unlock the basement door for his family's escape. Becca drives away with the children to a secure location. Hutch places the dead and injured attackers on his couch and proceeds to speak. He reveals that he was once an auditor, an assassin employed by intelligence agencies to eliminate individuals deemed untouchable or too challenging to apprehend. He executed his tasks professionally until he spared a target's life and discovered that the man went on to build a new and happy existence. This revelation led Hutch to retire against his superior's wishes. Since then, he has done everything in his power to suppress the memories of his former life. Just then, he notices a kitty cat bracelet lying next to a pool of blood. Before departing, Hutch informs the deceased assailants that bones turn to ashes at 1,500 degrees, then proceeds to set his basement on fire. He steals his arrogant neighbor's prized car and drives away. Elsewhere, a car carrying two assassins arrives at the nursing home where Hutch's father resides. They head directly to David's room, approaching him as he pretends to be asleep. Surprisingly, David effortlessly dispatches both assailants. Hutch then pours a bag filled with gold bars onto Eddie's desk, announcing that he is purchasing the factory. Meanwhile, Julian watches news footage and realizes that Pavel has been killed. Hutch temporarily shuts down the factory, arming his desk with an array of weapons and ammunition. Harry contacts him through the radio, and Hutch reveals that he has a plan. Hutch drives to the location where the mob is counting their illicit money and begins firing upon them. He ignites Julian's priceless artwork and the stacks of illicit money, engulfing them in flames. Hutch drives to the club where he is supposed to meet Julian and his henchmen. He reveals a hidden explosive claymore under his napkin and holds the detonator in his hand. Julian becomes furious when Hutch informs him that he has destroyed everything. Hutch gives Julian two choices: either come after him or take what little is left and escape the club, putting an end to their business for good. Angry and determined, Julian calls all the men working for him and they chase Hutch to a factory. Inside the factory, David and Harry are present and assist Hutch in eliminating the gangsters using various weapons and deadly traps that Hutch had set up beforehand. They manage to kill all the gunmen, except for Julian, who shoots and injures Harry. Hutch charges at Julian with a claymore mine attached to a bulletproof shield and detonates it, killing Julian. He expresses gratitude to David and Harry as they depart upon hearing police sirens. Hutch calls Becca and leaves a heartfelt message before he gets arrested by the police. However, he is quickly released without any charges filed when the police discover his clean background. 3 months later, Hutch and Becca are buying a new house together when Hutch receives a call indicating